Hello again, YouTube, and I'm back with another video here. And in this video here, I'm going to do an unboxing of my new inverter. And this is a Schneider Electric, a Conext SW4024. It's basically another 24-volt inverter. And the reason why I got another inverter is because of, just for redundancy, for backup purposes. And I may replace, just have the Magnum inverter as a backup and use this one instead. And the reason being is because if you're a prepper, you already know 1 equals none, 2 equals 1. And so, that the inverter that I currently have is, going on like 5 years old, going on 5 years old, maybe more. And the thing is, I was kind of, concerned that if my inverter went out, I do have an Ames backup inverter, but obviously it's not even in the same class as the Magnum. And this right here is a Schneider Electric brand. It's again a Conext SW4024. So let me take it out of the box, and I bought it used off of eBay. It was essentially, well, it had some shipping damage, and they were selling it was unused, as they say in the description, but it had like damage and stuff like that. So this inverter was half price, and I couldn't resist that. So stand by. Okay, YouTube, I've taken it out of the box, and just like any inverter with a huge transformer in there, this thing is heavy. It is, just like the Magnum, this thing is heavy. And so, this is the front face of it. Again, it's a Conext XSW. Just like any inverter, you got, the connections here, positive and negative. Here's the data plate. So again, essentially this is a pretty beefy inverter, and it's a 12240. You can see that the voltage, input voltage, DC output voltage is between 12 and 34 volts at 90 amps, and this is because of the charger. This is in the charging mode, so it goes up to like 90 amps. And on the input side, it goes from 20 volts to 34 volts. So it's different than my Magnum, which goes from 18 volts to like 33 volts. And let's see here. And the maximum current that can pull from from the battery, or as far as in inverter mode, is 230 amps. So let's see, max power is 3,400 watts continuous, and about 4,000 watts for 30 minutes. In my system here, I don't get past, as far as 4,000 watts, I've never really got even close to that. And so you have, as far as the current continuous, is like 15 amps. This is like AC output, so 15 amps. And let's see here. And that's, this is 15 amps. That's enough for, for my loads. So anyway, this is what it is. It's a Conext XSW 4024, 120 volts by 240. Let's see, single split phase. So essentially, yeah, this is a pretty decent unit. And the reason why it was so cheap, because you've got some damage, when it was, I guess when it was first shipped to someone, and they couldn't really, give them damaged goods or whatever. So it looks like all of the damage is pretty much cosmetic. And again, I couldn't resist this because this thing here was half price. So, I mean, you can't beat that. It was half price. And if you look at the regular price for one of these things, I mean, you're gonna pay a nice pretty penny for it. And I was looking for another inverter. I was thinking about getting that cheap PIP something or other. And I was just like wondering about it, and I was like, well, you know, yeah, a lot of people, they say good things, but there was just something about it. I just, you know, I was just kind of holding off, and, you know, I was like, nah, I just finally said, no, I couldn't bring myself to do it. If I'm going to get another inverter, it's going to be, you know, another, either a Magnum or something similar around that range. Because, you know, like the Magnum, this thing here is built to last. And, you know, with a brand like that, you know, hey, Schneider Electric, I mean, they do power, and they do it very well. So anyway, just an update, YouTube. I plan on hooking this thing up. I've got the control unit coming in that will allow me to connect to it through through a network and program it and monitor it and stuff like that. And I expect to have that by the weekend at least, and then I'll be in business. Okay, YouTube, take care and stand by. Hello again, YouTube, and I'm back here, and in this segment here I show that I've mounted the in the Conext SW4024 inverter charger. I've mounted it to the board, and you can see the damage that was the reason for this thing being half price. This unit itself, it was like 650 bucks on YouTube. I mean, not YouTube, but eBay. And because of this damage here, it was, you know, it was some exterior damage and a little dent here. But the unit appears to be working fine. And when you buy something like this, what happened with this particular type of unit, you get this indicator panel here, and what it is you only get two buttons to do, you know, some type of control, which is enable and disable the inverter, and you have the ability to clear faults. Now this thing here, these are just 3 indicator lights, and that's it. Without any type of control box, the only thing that you can do is plug it in, and it will work out of the box. However, it's configured for a standard, most of these inverters like this, so configured for a standard 24 volt lead acid based battery system. So you get the standard configurations for that particular type of system. But with a nickel based system, you're going to need some type of control box, and this is where this thing comes in. And this is a Conext COM box, and if you look here, this particular box allows me to connect to this particular inverter charger through something called the ZAN bus. And the ZAN bus is basically a proprietary network that allows ZAN bus compatible devices to communicate with each other. And you see right here, this is a standard network cable. This is a network cable that is basically a Cat5 Ethernet cable that connects to the ZAN bus connection on the inverter charger. The thing on the side here is a network termination plug on both sides here. Just kind of, you know, closes the loop between ZAN bus devices. And this is, again, a proprietary network connection that allows the unit to talk and configure and control other units. So this particular box, this COM box, it comes with a power adapter right here. It comes with an Ethernet cable. This Ethernet cable I provided myself. The other one was just too long. This one here, it comes with this particular termination plug, or ZAN bus network termination plug, an RS485 connector, an Ethernet connection. This is 10x100, which is fast Ethernet. This plugs into my router. And this right here is a dry contact switch that controls relays. So you have a connection here for normally closed, and you have another connection for normally open, and a COM in the middle. So this allows me to control a relay if I wanted to from this particular box. This box also has the capability of data logging, and I'll just flick this up right quick if you can see. And well, you can see through the lid here, but what it is with this particular lid, or with this particular box here, if I wanted to extend the memory of this COM box, I can put a micro SD in there for extended data data logging capability. This particular host USB connection allows me to update the firmware on the COM box, and the micro USB connection I can obviously connect to my laptop and talk to the device directly. The reset button allows me to reset in the event of a fault or something like that. And you have the typical status indicators. And this comes with a web server enabled, built into the unit. And I connect through a web page, and through this web page I can control this particular inverter charger. I can also set it up for my special nickel-based battery configurations as well. Now, when they shipped me this thing, because it was used, so to speak, I did not get any terminal ends here or terminal covers. I also did not get a battery temperature sensor, and I didn't get one of these. I had to order this, and I didn't get a network connection either, network cable. So, but for, you know, just over $650, you couldn't beat this. Now, that does not include shipping, but essentially the unit itself was around 650 bucks. That was, I mean, just under half price, or just at half price of what you would buy this thing for retail. Yeah, it has a little bit of damage right here, but hey, I mean, that for the price, you can't beat it. The installation was pretty easy. As you can see, there's AC in and AC out, just like on here if I wanted to mount it on the side. And it just plugs into, you know, this section right here where these screws are. There's some terminal connections in the back. And there is the grounding lug for external chassis grounding. And as you can see, it fits my 4-aught cable connections and lugs perfectly with no problem. Now, when I connected this thing up, the installation was easy. The unit itself is mounted on a DIN rail that you see back here. It was really easy to mount, really easy to set up and configure. And once you plug it in, if you hook it up to the network, and if your network has a router that provides automatic IPs through DHCP, then you can just put in they also sent me a USB thumb drive, and you plug that USB thumb drive in there, and what will happen is it will actually copy the configuration to that thumb drive, and it'll allow through that configuration that, you know, it'll allow you to open up a web page it'll discover it, and you'll see it right away. And it was really easy to configure, easy to set up, and easy to run. And this particular unit right now is configured to be in a hybrid mode, or what they call grid support. And what that does is it allows me to utilize power coming from the AC, from the utility, and my batteries at the exact same time. And it'll act in like a hybrid mode. I've been running this thing since 10 o'clock yesterday evening. And right now I'm at 78% state of charge, 24 volts, and I'm pulling about 18 amps from the battery bank. So with nickel-based batteries, I don't even sweat that. But anyway, it was really easy to control and set up. I mean, I could control it through I could turn it on and off through a web page. I can monitor it, and it gives me a lot more capability that I hope to show you at a later date. Now, or in a later segment. And with this particular control unit, it's powered through this adapter, but the thing is, this unit can be powered by 3 different sources. The primary power source can be from this 24 volt DC adapter, basically right here, this plug. And it can also be powered as a secondary power source from the ZAN bus or the RS485 connections. As you can see right here, it's 24 volts. So, you know, I can pull this plug right here and it will still be powered up. You know, I can pull this plug and it will be powered up. So I can power this thing from multiple sources. Now, for my setup here, I basically installed this plug in the back, and I went to Walmart and got this extended wall outlet here, so I can get 6 plugs as opposed to just 2, so I can plug in all these things too. And I just connected that here to the output on the inverter, as you can see there. So right now things are working pretty well. This particular unit, it's comparable to the Magnum inverter. This obviously has a lot more capability of the Magnum inverter that I owned. However, Magnum also produces a hybrid inverter that does pretty much the same thing functionally, where it allows you to pull power from multiple sources to supplement your loads in your home. However, they don't, as I know right now, they don't have the capability of this particular box here. This box was $250, and I got it from Northern Arizona Wind and Solar. And there are plenty of places on the net that actually sell these things. Wholesale Solar sells them, but they sell them at double the price. Alt-E sells them, I think, for about maybe $280, just over $280, maybe $282. But Wholesale Solar, I mean, their price tag is just horrendous. I mean, double. So Northern Arizona Wind and Solar had them for $250. I was like, hey, you can't beat that. With this right here, plus this coming from eBay, from some seller, a surplus supply seller, for $650, or I mean, you couldn't beat that. Now the Magnum, I'm going to keep that to utilize as a secondary system. As they say, I don't know if I've said it before, but all preppers know 1 equals none and 2 equals 1. And so I'm going to keep the Magnum as my redundant or backup inverter, just in case something happens to my primary inverter, which would be this one. I'm going to keep it, and and my control unit and stuff like that. So I'll keep that as my secondary. But so far, this thing has been working pretty well. I'm satisfied with it. As I said, it's comparable to the Magnum. It does what I need it to do. It was at the right price, and I got it at the right time, and so I installed it. This thing is heavy. Make no mistake, this thing is heavy. So, but anyway, YouTube, hopefully I'll get a chance, and I will, show you what the software looks like as well. But again, just want to show you my system in a nutshell. My batteries are working just fine. They're working great. Also, for you folks that are, there's been some question about my capacitors and, how I've got them set up. And I think I explained it in earlier videos, but I'll try to explain it again. Hold on one moment. Okay, as I said, I've explained it to some folks before, but I think there was some question about, my ultra capacitors and why I have them and stuff like that. And again, these are 12 Maxwell 3000 farad 2.7 volts each. My ultra capacitors connected together in series. And, that give for a total of 32.4 volts in series, and a capacitance value of 256 farads. Each time you connect capacitors in series, you have the capacitance. So you take the capacitance of each capacitor, which is 3000 farads, and you divide that by 12, and you get 256. Now, each one of these capacitors, because of what they are and so forth, I have to have some type of balancing circuitry so that not one capacitor will be overcharged over another. So I have 12 capacitors, but I have 6 of these controller boards. And it basically, there's 2 capacitors that are connected to each controller board. And you see that there's a soldering, like right in the middle, and on the back, this is where those solder joints connect on the back of the capacitors. Now, each one of these capacitors connected is to very heavy gauge cable. These are 4-aught cable, because of the amperage capability that this thing will generate. And you see right here, I have each one of these taped off with some electrical tape, and that's for additional installation so that there won't be any arcing or sparking and stuff like that. This tape in the back that I've got, it's like, sticky, real sticky stuff. That's what that, that black stuff on the back there, when I was trying to tape it up, I kind of, I had crap all over my hands and stuff like that. So that's what that is. So I've got them mounted, with some little metal straps there. And that tape is just kind of like a cushion to keep the metal strap away from the actual metal here, so there won't be any scraping or anything. And on the back there, that's just a cushion. And two boards, kind of squeeze them in the middle so that they will stay nice and snug. This wire here, it goes to a monitoring circuit here, so I can know what the voltage is of this capacitor bank. It's not accurate, but it gives me an idea, lets me know, hey, the capacitor bank is still alive. So this is my positive and that's my negative, and it is connected directly to the inverter charger. So this is connected to the capacitor bank, and the capacitor bank is then connected to the batteries through those bus bars, as you can see, the positive and negative bus bars. And obviously it's connected through this particular circuit breaker. And the inverter charger is also connected to this 200 amp circuit breaker here. So I've got circuit protection throughout the system. And so again, the reason why I have this capacitor bank is so that I can run I can run my washing machine, my dishwasher, and fans, and refrigerator, freezer, all of them at the exact same time. Dishwasher, washing machine, refrigerator, freezer, ceiling fans. If I want to run a blender and boil water, through my distiller, all at the same time. And this gives me that capability. There's a lot of power here. I respect this thing immensely, in a sense that I don't play here. Okay, I don't play here. One wrong misstep here, and you're either going to the emergency room or the morgue.
Okay, YouTube, in this segment here, I'm going to show you the software that comes with the Conext COM box. And what you see before you is a web page that is generated by the unit itself. There's a web server inside of the unit, and I connect to that web server, and now I can see information. And what you see is this my system that is getting power, my home that is getting power from my from the utility that is represented by this generator icon, and my battery bank. And so it's as I mentioned in the previous segment, the software is working in a hybrid fashion. And I think they call this grid support. And the manual itself that comes with this unit is like 138 pages, so I haven't read it all. But I've read enough of it. So essentially what you see here is 99 watts or so is coming from the utility, and I got 443 watts that are feeding my loads in my home. And if you look right here, 424 watts, and to do a sanity check, I usually check it out with my TED unit here. So you can see TED is saying, okay, you're pulling 484. And so this is saying, hey, you're pushing 413. So the thing is, it's close. I mean, this thing is fluid. It's kind of moving back and forth. And this is coming directly from the inverter. And these numbers are coming a distance away, coming from my sub panel through the measuring units in the sub panel. So there is a bit of a delay. So coming back here, this particular web interface gives me a lot of information. For instance, if I click here on devices, it'll let me know exactly, this CSW is the Conext SW inverter charger, and it gives you information at a glance about what's going on. If I click here, it'll give me detailed information, a lot of information about maybe even the power quality coming into the inverter and the power quality coming out of the inverter, as also how much power is coming out. The frequency, whether or not the signal coming from the utility is good or bad, lets me know if there's any faults or warnings, and it also lets me know what the status is of my inverter. Like, for instance, it's operating, but it's operating in a mode called grid support. And think of that as a hybrid mode where, where the inverter will pull power from the battery bank and the utility to supplement loads in the home until it reaches a certain set point. One of the nice features about this inverter charger and this Connect box is the fact that I can control it through this web interface. I can control the operating mode, which is either operating or standby, or I can enable or disable the inverter, effectively turning it off. There's also some additional settings. For instance, the inverter control. I can set the low battery and high battery cutout. And this is what the similar stuff that you would find with any inverter charger of, that's of this caliber. I mean, this is similar to the Magnum inverter, but again, the Connect Com box gives me a lot of capability that the Magnum inverter and the controller out of the box doesn't give me. For instance, now similarly, I can set custom battery settings to reflect my nickel based batteries, nickel cadmium and nickel iron. But one additional feature that the CSW or the Connect SW inverter charger has that the Magnum, as it stands right now, I'm not sure I know the Magnum that I have doesn't work with this, but they also give you the ability to charge lithium-based batteries as well, and this is through the Connect series of inverter chargers. And also, it gives me a lot of additional support. Like for instance, AC support mode. This is what you saw as far as that grid support. Also, it gives some additional AC settings. I can set the breaker size. Tell it what I consider low voltage, high voltage in terms of qualifying the signal. Also, it gives me the ability to do load shaving and do AC support based on state of charge if I had their battery monitor. Another good feature to check out is when you go back here to system performance, I can click here on generator and I can take a look at some of the statistics. Like for instance, it's sometime in the evening now. It's actually 6:35 in the evening, and you can look to see at 5 p.m. I only pulled 101 watt hours from the utility, but I pulled 566 watt hours from my battery bank. So you can see throughout the day, today, all the way back to 12 a.m., that my system has been inverting all day long. But I've been pulling power from the utility sporadically, throughout the day. And so with this right here, it gives me the ability to see exactly what's going on with the inverter itself. I have the ability to pull. If I had a Snyder, charge controller, I can also see what's going on with it as well. Let's see. Under the status indicators, I can, as far as the ComBox configuration, I can configure, the basic stuff. Like for instance, I can change the admin password, set time and date. The network settings, I can even set up a email settings to send out email messages and stuff like that. It gives me a lot of configuration parameters here. I could come here and take a look at events. If I had some, historical events, active events, I could come here and take a look at them and clear them out if necessary. So this particular software gives me a lot of information. Now, combined with my own SCADA software here, like for instance, I've been running this all day long, and my battery voltage is down to 23 volts. And you can see here that my state of charge is at 62%. And I got 250 amp hours left in the battery bank, and if I wanted to start the charging process, I got to give it 153 amp hours. And you can see as far as how much is coming out of the battery bank and how much is actually going to the loads in my home. So going back here, this gives me a lot of information, a lot of statistics. I can take a look at loads, and I can see, for instance, the load output versus the DC energy output. Like for instance, the load required at, let's say at 5 o'clock, I needed 566 watt hours to satisfy the loads in my home. However, in order to satisfy the AC loads, I needed 793 watt hours to satisfy, coming from the DC side to satisfy the AC side. So, these things, these inverters are good, but, are they super efficient? No. The most efficient inverters that I've ever seen are the grid tie inverters. They are super efficient. But these here, they'll do fine. They do fine. So again, this is one of the reasons why I really like this. Again, coming back here, this ability to add, on the website to take a look at exactly what's going on, and not only that, but to control it, through just the web interface. That's just awesome. And getting, all of the information that I would desire to find out what's going on. Like for instance, the current inverter DC power essentially 738 watts. The current, is 30.9 amps. Again, I can get this information from, from my little web browser here. I mean, my interface that I created. But coming back here to take a look at the actual power characteristics of, the power quality and so forth coming into the home. Or being supplied to my inverter, and making sure that that power quality is good to go. That's some really good information for me. And in checking to see if there's any faults, any warnings, what's going on. Hey, this gives me all the information that I need. And there are some additional features here that I'm not going to go into, but again, this is just to kind of give you an idea of why I went with the Schneider Electric Conext inverter charger, and also got this COM box. And again, one of the other reasons is for the fact that hey, I would love to have gone with a Magnum inverter, another Magnum inverter, but they are pricey, and they're pricey for a reason. And this particular inverter charger, again, I got it at half price, just over 650 bucks. From eBay, just because it just had a little bit of damage, and also this particular COM box here for 250 bucks. I mean, it was a great deal. Again, this came from Northern Arizona Wind and Solar. You can also get them from Alt E. For just a little bit more, but wholesale solar, the price was double, and you can kind of see why. And not only this, but with this particular software here, I can also get the information through Modbus. And if I can get the information through Modbus, then I can actually tie it into this particular software here. I can actually control the inverter and see various status information from one place, as opposed to kind of shifting between web pages. But it's no big deal. But anyway, all right, YouTube, I just want to kind of let you know what's going on, and you guys take care.